G'day, it's Rowan from Elshot Design. In this video, we're going to look at my favourite workshop material, YELLOWTongue STRUCTAflor flooring. It's bloody awesome stuff. There's so many things you can do with it. We're going to look at 10 things you can do. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. There might be some ideas you can take into your own workshop. Let's go and jump in with number one. Well, it makes sense to talk about flooring as number one because that's what it's designed for. This stuff is designed for subfloors. It can also be used in suspended multi-stories as well. The thinner stuff, which is 19 mils, comes in, it's called YELLOWTongue, and it's designed to go over joists with 450 centers. Then it comes in red tongue, which is a bit thicker. That's designed to go over 600 mil centers. Then the really thick one, the 25 mil blue tongue, it can handle much more weight on top. The stuff's made from Australian pine plantations, and all the chips are held together with a moisture resistant resin, which makes it really useful if you're on a building site because it can sit outside for about 3 months before the moisture starts to go into the material. It's really fantastic stuff. Now it's dead flat, so it's really good for bench tops and all kinds of things that I'm going to talk about soon, but it is quite heavy, so you've got to be careful handling it. It comes in 3.6 metre lengths by 800 wide, so they're pretty heavy when you chuck them in the trailer. And the edges are pretty sharp too, so you've got to be careful there. I've cut myself a few times on this stuff. This YELLOWTongue comes in this machined groove here, and that helps the sheets lock together when you put them together on your floor. I normally rip the stuff out with a screwdriver so I can use it for other things. Number two is cladding your walls in your workshop. Now there's different ways you can do this. There's OSB particle board, gyprock. I've used a bit of both actually. I use gyprock up high. If you look up here, you can see I've just gone up high enough to mount my pictures and my tools and stuff. Once I get a bit higher than that, I'll just use gyprock because gyprock's still cheaper. So I just use the YELLOWTongue where I need to put something into it. What I do also is, because it's quite heavy, I try and make the weight go through to the ground. So you can see here what I've done is I've put in some 70 by 35 pine painted along the bottom and just fill the back with concrete. It's a cheap way to keep the bugs and crap out, and it also gives me a surface to sit the STRUCTAflor on. Then it's just screwing it into the top hats along the side of the shed there. Number three has got to be bench tops. Really good for bench tops. Nice and flat. What I've done here is I've welded up a frame out of square hollow section, some brackets underneath so the STRUCTAflor sits flush with the top. Then if I ever damage it, I can just unscrew it and replace it. Nice and easy. And how bad is my head glowing in this light? Here's another great example of a bench top. The bar. I've given this 3 coats of polyurethane clear and sanded in between each coat, just to make sure it's really waterproof long term, and the sanding just made it nice and smooth. You do notice the particles coming through when you're looking for a really smooth surface, so a little bit of a sand really helped. And I picked up this 20mm edging strip from the local hardware just to dress the edges. Number four, the drawer. But not just the drawer. You could use this for lots of different things. In this case, I've used it as a decorative element to make the face of these drawers match the rest of my shelving. I've seen OSB board used in fancy hotels to give it a bit of a hipster sort of vibe, you know, like funky industrial design. You could do the same thing with this. So even though I've used it for drawers, the sky's the limit. Think about some other ideas. I'd love to hear what your ideas are. Drop them in the comments. Number five is the STRUCTAflor Superpower. Shelving. Very good. I've used this stuff for all kinds of shelving. In this case, I've got fairly shallow shelving. It's about 100mm deep, just for my nail jars. And I've welded up some basic brackets out of angle iron just to hold the shelvings onto the wall, which is also STRUCTAflor. And I've run a narrow strip along the back just to stop it from sagging. Over here is another example where I've used it for my tools. You can see behind me I've used STRUCTAflor for the shelving here for my tools and stuff. Just using some basic pine for the structure. But you can get quite a lot of shelves out of one sheet of STRUCTAflor. While we're over here, the next one is tool shelves. You can see here I've just done some basic cutouts. Made a side wall here to hold up these shelves with the holes cut out of them, and my drills just sit in there like that. Shelving is also useful for the offcuts. So here I've used some of the offcuts to mount various bits and pieces like my drill bits, and also for the hammers over there you can see I've actually gone the strip of STRUCTAflor which is screwed into the back wall. That way if I ever change my mind I can just take that bit out and screw a new bit on. Number 7 is to think about 3D shapes. This is a resin printing station and I wanted to get the fumes out. So I built a box around this extraction fan. It's another example of how you can use offcuts. So always keep these bits. It's amazing how with STRUCTAflor, all these little bits and pieces you have left over, you can use them for stuff. Makes really strong boxes. Number 8 is pelmet lighting. Pelmet lighting, you ask? Yes. The good thing about using it for this is that I can make it a custom depth. If I use standard sizes in pine, it'd be 140 or 285, whatever it is after that. But I needed this to come out a certain distance as I'm running lighting around the inside of this. You can see I'm just putting this in today. So this gives me the exact depth I want, and I can get the entire room out of probably one sheet. So it's a couple of days later, I just thought I'd sneak in this final shot with the lighting in. It looks pretty good. It's painted as well. Here's another example. I got these lights from a mate. He got them from an old music shop. Custom depth, and just wanted to put a facade on the outside of this, so it wasn't a standard size. So the STRUCTAflor allowed me to cut it down to exactly what I needed. To make it easy to pick up YELLOWTongue, I made up this jig. It's got 800 on one side. I'm going to flip it over and it's got 1200 for gyprock. So I want the 800 side up, and I'll slot this in. And I can sit my YELLOWTongue up the back of the trailer and it doesn't move around. Just gotta remember which way this thing goes in. There we go. For number 9, we're going to do something a little bit more refined. Something that you might see inside the house, not just in the workshop. We're going to make a drinks paddle. It's just an example of a very simple project. Knock this up in probably half an hour or so. I'm going to use steel for the frame, but if you don't have steel, you could just cut out the shape, sand edges, call it done. This bit of angle will work nicely for the outside of the paddle. We'll cut it up, weld it together, and see how we go. So I found this bit of scrap. It's about 300 by 100. It's going to fit 3 of these glasses nicely. Now the bottom of this glass is about 55mm. So this hole cutting saw bit is going to be perfect. These are pretty common because you use them to make door handles. I'm just going to weld this piece of flat bar on the bottom. Now when it's flipped over, the glasses will just sit on that. I'm going to run a coat of 1 coat clear over it. This is some stuff I found in the cupboard. Seems liquid enough still. It's water based too, so it'll be touch dry in a couple of hours. So I can use this thing and get some drinks on it. Flip it over. Pop it in. That's it, let it dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, I'll show you number 10, and that's using the YELLOWTongue itself. These make really good stirring sticks, particularly for things like resin. What I normally do is I'll just heat the handle, make a little curve in it, makes it easy to grip. Bend it over, shove it in there until it goes cold and hard. Then you'd love a little handle. Alright, should have cooled down enough by now. There you go. Little handle. You put your finger in there and stir things. So I'm going to make a special drink to test out the paddle. I'm going to call this cocktail the YELLOWTongue, although it's actually based on one called the Gold Rush. 60 mils of bourbon. 22.5 mils of lemon juice. 22.5 mils of honey syrup. Now I'm going to just put a little tiny bit of this ginger in. Just want to find a nice small bit. Yeah, that bit there is good. That'll do. Give it a shake. Make sure none of that ginger comes in the glass. Garnish with a couple of limes. Thanks for watching if you made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.